So we're going to talk about 3 goddesses from ancient Egypt, their archetypes, and kind of how create the space to talk about how we can all step back into that today and create a community where a woman like that can flourish. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, I'm from North Carolina, from Fayetteville, Bible Belt country. I was born, like Southern Baptist, and I love the church. I love going all the time as a child, singing in the choir and things like that. And one of the first things that we learned, was about this Trinity concept. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, right? So that's kind of what we see depicted in the image to your left, that concept. And so as I began to grow and get a little bit older, and when I came out here, I started and have my own spiritual awakening. I started looking back into history to see what other things came before Christianity, or what other symbols or things that maybe have inspired it. And I came across a beautiful story in ancient Egypt of their Trinity, which incorporates a mother, a concept of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Mother. And it really, and we're always told, we're made in God's image and things like that. But whenever you constantly see an image of God as a man, I was always curious, like, how does a woman connect to that? You're told that you look like God, and we're told and shown pictures like, well, wow, how does he doesn't have, a shapely, curvy body. He doesn't have a colored skin or anything like that. So, it really left me, interested in what this concept was and what the story was of the God that's kind of taken out of that concept. So, again, when you look over here on your right, you have Hathor, Set, and Heru. Those are their African names, and in Greek names, you may be familiar with their Greek names, Isis, Osiris, and Horus. And that story of that Trinity, and it's a beautiful story, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the goddess Isis or Set and what she represented, and it's a beautiful love story that comes from it. So, the story goes, so Isis and Osiris were a beautiful couple. They lived in ancient Egypt and they served the people. They taught them how to grow crops, they taught them about spirituality, and they taught them about oneness. And they were beloved by everyone around them. And they had so much beautiful love for each other. It was a very passionate romance, very spiritually balanced romance, and everybody revered them and looked up to them. However, whenever you have people put on a pedestal or revered, you have people who are jealous of their success and that attention. So they had a brother, and his name was Set. And he obviously was very jealous of all the attention that his brother and his beautiful bride were getting. So he made a conspirating kind of gesture in order to take him out of the picture. So he hosted a beautiful, beautiful dinner in the kingdom and invited everyone there, and Osiris as well. And kind of as like a party favor or a party game, he brought this beautiful golden casket there. And he's like, anybody who fits in this casket will get to take it home. And so everybody's excited because, you have people from the country there and they didn't see any kind of money like that. So like, wow, let's try to fit in this casket. So they're all jumping in and nobody's fitting and they're getting really upset. And Osiris, of course, is feeling the energy and the vibe of the eating. He's like, maybe I can get in there. But what he didn't know that his brother Set had secretly gotten his arrangements, his measurements, and made it specially tailor-made for his body, so he would be the only one that could fit in there. So when Osiris gets in the casket and fits, Set and his conspirators come over and they close it directly, they nail it up, and they float it down the Nile River. Alright, so that was his plan to get rid of him. And so the casket floats down the river, as the story tells, it runs to this beautiful oak tree, and the energy of the tree engulfs the casket, and it became one with it, and so it was caught in there, so like he would never be able to be found. And eventually, another king from another kingdom cut down that tree because it looked so beautiful, and he made it a pillar in his kingdom. So Isis, of course, is distraught. She doesn't know where her husband is, but however they're so spiritually connected, she was able to go to the castle and be drawn to the castle, the energy and the pillar that created it. So she tears it down, takes him back, to the kingdom, and he's in a sleep state, so he's like unconscious, he's not waking up. So she's trying to find ways to revive him. So she leaves for a moment. However, unfortunately, Set and his henchmen see the casket and notice it, so they decide to go finish the job themselves. So they cut up his body into 14 pieces and spread it across Egypt, so like, never to be found again. However, they underestimated the power and the willpower and the determination and healing power and love of Isis. She went throughout the country and arranged each of his body parts except for one. She only couldn't find one piece, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But she creates the first mummy. out of this. So she becomes the first mummification. Of course, as you see Isis here, she's the winged goddess. And whenever you look at a hospital or you go see that image, like that winged symbol, that is inspired by her. So she was like considered the first healer and magician of that time period. So through her magic, she was able to bring Osiris back to life and to conceive a child. And so we have our first concept of an immaculate conception, because that last piece, was his, that organ that helps create children, so that was the one thing that she couldn't find. But magically she created that, and then Horus was born, her son, who would later grow up to avenge his father's death and restore peace and order to the kingdom. So this goddess here, and one of the most popular goddesses from that time period, because of her power, because of her diligence, because of her nurturing leadership, that was why everybody loved her. And so again, one of the biggest misconceptions about ancient Egypt is that their gods and goddesses were things to be worshipped, when in all actuality they were concepts to be embodied. So Isis speaks to that part of the woman, a part of you that is that nurturer, that is that healer, that is a leader, and that is very persistent and powerful. So that is that beautiful reminder that her story represents for that part of yourself. So, probably one of my favorite goddesses from the time period is Hathor / Sekhmet. Now, the beautiful story about this time period is that back in ancient Egypt, there was a time when the people were in a very state of unrest. Everybody was, very upset and disregarding the rules, set up by the pharaohs and things like that. So, Amun-Ra, the sun god, the creator of other gods and goddesses, summoned Hathor and said, go down there and restore order. And Hathor was the goddess of, love and fertility. So probably trying to bring that energy there to kind of, even out the energy of the people and bring them back to their sanity. However, when Hathor arrived, she saw that the conditions were much worse than they thought. It was really getting out of control. So she started tapping into a different part of herself and morphed into a completely different goddess, which her name is Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess you see on the other side. And Sekhmet is the goddess of war, all right? And so she goes out and starts terrorizing people, killing and murdering and really using her power in a destructive way. And Ra sees this, and so he's like, well, she's going a little bit too far with this. We didn't mean it to go that far. So what she did was he created a beer and turned the color red and created a river of it, because she was very bloodlusty. She was running across, the town looking for that. So when she saw the river, she thought it was blood, so she drank of it. And when she drank of it, she became drunk and fell asleep and passed out. And when she woke up, she was back to Hathor again. She had restored to her original self and was able to use her powers as the goddess of love and the goddess of fertility to restore order, finding that balance. And so again, the metaphor in this, or the concept in this, is understanding the part of you in a woman that is like a wild beast, that is passionate. That doesn't take anything for granted. It was not going to take any mess, pretty much. Again, I have a southern mother. She did not take any crap. She would not do that. So a lot of times I think of my mother like this, because she's, very passionate and artistic woman. So what this goddess speaks to is balance. Understanding that you are a passionate being, that you are a sexual being. However, there's another part of you that can lay that out. And I think a lot of times as humans, when we deny that wild part of ourselves, it's easy for it to kind of bite you in the back, and not check parts of yourself or your darkness. It comes out in subconscious ways. So when you're aware of that, however, you're able to control it a lot more. So that's what this story and this goddess represents. Yes, and finally, another favorite goddess of mine is Maat. Now, Maat, yes, make some noise there. Yes. So in the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, Maat was the goddess you would see at the end of your journey through the afterlife. So you had, after you passed away and came into the afterlife, your spirit had to go through these tests. And at the end of your test, you would get to Maat, and what she would have, you see her feather on the top of her head. That is her feather. And what she did was you would have that balance there, and you would have to weigh your heart on that balance against its feather. And it couldn't be heavier or it couldn't be lighter than the feather, unless you wouldn't be allowed into the afterlife. All right. And so Maat was the goddess of justice, truth, integrity, and intelligence. And a lot of the laws and the balance of ancient Egypt came from her, the 42 laws of Maat, and it kind of taught you how to live, or told you how to live, like a balanced life instead of, something that is, out of balance. And so that's what that goddess represents. That's what her story represents and her image represents. And so as women, it definitely speaks to the part of you that brings justice to a community. An awakened woman, everything around an awakened woman changes. And they're not going to tolerate a community that degrades you, or the community that degrades other women, because you stay together. Because you have that inner sense and that inner knowing of what is right and what is wrong, that woman's intuition. And that's what Maat speaks to, so tapping into that, being encouraged and being empowered to say, wow, like I can trust the feelings that I have, I can trust the emotions that I have, because I'm having them for a very specific reason. So that's what that goddess speaks to me, and again, kind of reflects to all of the women in the room today. So again, another beautiful story and another beautiful goddess. And of course, whenever you go into courtrooms across America, you're seeing, the Justice is Blind statue that you see there, and it is a derivative of Maat. And a lot of times, we forget that, because, they seem to be like Greek goddesses. But, the ancient Greeks got their entire society and their entire culture from ancient Egypt. How many of you ever heard of the Rosetta Stone? And that technology, that language, software, and technology, right? So the original Rosetta Stone was the ancient Egyptians' way of transcribing the hieroglyphs into Greek. So whenever they came into the country, they wanted to understand how they had created such a beautiful society. And so they gave the information to them, because a lot of misconceptions when you talk about spirituality in this time period is that people came in here and raided and stole everything. However, when you have knowledge that is powerful, it's meant to be shared. Especially when it's based in love. And this is kind of what we're doing today. We all come from different places. We all come from different cultures. And whenever we can learn something from a different culture, we can accept that and not see it as an attack on our own, or what we may have believed, or what we may have grown up. You can take things from it and then just use it in your life to make it better, or to create a sense of community. So that's what happened a lot in this time period. So you can see, we honor these time periods, we honor these symbols, but it's kind of underneath the surface. So if you have like a $1 bill and you look on the back, what do you see? You see a pyramid, right? You see a pyramid with an eye in it. Or in Washington, D.C., our Washington Monument is actually an Egyptian monument. It's called an obelisk. So again, there's so much embedded in American history and world history from this time period, because it was so influential. All right, so that's why I feel like it's important to kind of share these stories and talk about this time period, so we can kind of decode these things and then build something even bigger, build something even greater. So again, that's Maat, and that's another reason why I love her. So let's bring it to current times, right? Whenever you meet, you talk about history and history class, like, wow, what does it have to do with right now? Like, it's beautiful, these stories are beautiful, but like, what does it have to do with us? Well, thankfully, we have the entertainment industry. We have ways that we can embed messages and embed, certain energy through music, because it kind of speaks to our subconscious. And so you have artists that are putting, out music and putting out messages in order to get out that message. So these are 3 modern goddesses I really see within the industry that are kind of doing that. Of course, in the fall, let me see Beyonce. How many of y'all saw the halftime performance by Beyonce? Yeah, it was a very, very powerful sense and call to women really to get information, to get ready, to remember who you are, and remember the power that you have in order to start a movement. To start moving out of this racism, to start moving out of this sexism, to start moving out of this, domestic violence. It's like you have the power to end all of it. To end all of it. How many of y'all have seen the Chirac or Spike Lee Chirac movie? Yeah, so maybe not a lot of you, but it was based on an old tale, and there's many African tales about women who stopped wars by coming together in prayer, by coming together in protest, and also, saying that we're not gonna, have any sex anymore until you men stop being crazy and killing each other. You know what I'm saying? So like withholding that, that's just another way that it can happen. So as women, getting information, remembering who you are, and stepping as one, right? Exactly. And those are just beginning tactics that you can think about or look back in history to see. So that's what that formation movement means to me. Of course, in the middle, the beautiful Queen Erykah Badu. Any Erykah Badu fans? Yes. I'll tell you a story about Erykah Badu. So, again, I grew up in the South, and, I was kind of like conservative in a sense. And whenever her song would come on, when she sings, if we were made in his image, then call us by our names. Most intellects do not believe in God, but they fear us just the same. So I would hear that line, I would be like, oh, this sounds good, but I wouldn't sing it because I would get scared. Like, it was like a thunderbolt will come and strike me or something like that if I say something so blasphemous. But however, as I got deeper into my spiritual practice and started looking at it a different perspective, it was like, yeah, we are made in God's image. So why don't we refer to ourselves as gods and goddesses? We're all waiting for something to return, right? And this concept that God is separate, from mankind, kind of up in the sky, and we're just kind of waiting for this moment for God to return. However, in my perspective, I feel like God returns when you return to your perspective. You understand how your decisions and how your choices can come and affect everything that's going on with you, and it's just a beautiful, movement. And so that's what Erica represents in her music and her songs, and another nickname she has is like an analog girl in a digital world, and so it's like understanding that she's a part of this wave, she's a part of this frequency, and she can make a change in it through her music. So that's Erica. And of course, Janelle Monáe. Is Janelle Monáe fans in the building? Yeah, so Janelle has a beautiful concept called the Electric Lady, and she sings about that, a lot about that, and has created a whole world around it. And basically, she sings about this android community. So in the future, your super future, there's androids, and they're here to serve mankind. However, they begin to regain consciousness of themselves and create a world of their own. And so Janelle plays, the Cindy Mayweather is the name of her character, and she's one of the androids that starts leading an alliance to get everybody together and say, hey, we don't have to serve these people anymore, we can create our own world for ourselves. And it's kind of code for women, again, to understand your power and to understand that you don't have to fall in line with societal sayings of what you're supposed to be. Being in the house, cooking, cleaning, or doing any of these mundane things. Your totality is so much more than just those things. So that's what she sings about when she talks about the Electric Lady. So again, if you get so beautiful, when you learn these things, you can go back and listen, and the music means so much more to you the second time you come back. So I highly recommend checking out some of her stuff and her stories around that. And it's a beautiful kind of subconscious call to movement, in the music, and it's speaking to its audience. So those are three modern goddesses right there. So she's not, I was hoping she would be here by now, but again, I always like to bring back things to the community, but somebody here in San Diego, born and raised, is Brisa Lauren, who really kind of embodies this energy and embodies a lot of this. So she's a single mother, and she's raising a son. But a lot of times, you feel like your dreams are done, like your life is over. If you have a child, you can't live your dreams. It's all about your child. And for me, when I got a chance to meet her and understood all the beautiful things she does in the community, she kind of broke that code. It's like, no, I love my son, I'm going to be there for my son, but I still have a purpose and a mission here for my greater community as well. So she embodies a lot of that. So she works for a group here called Alliance San Diego, and is mobilizing voters in underprivileged communities in order to understand the issues and the candidates that speak to their issues in order to mobilize and get them registered to vote in order to get these individuals in office. So she's such a beautiful and courageous person in that movement as well. She's also an artist. She sings with a group called Lyrical Groove, and they've performed all throughout San Diego, won a lot of awards here in the city, and so she's doing that. And then, of course, she's a full-time mother, and she's in school as well, and she has political aspirations of her own. So she's doing all of these things while still being a mother, while, again, not having a man in the home day to day, but she's still getting it done. And that speaks to that power that you have as a woman to multitask, to be multiple things at one time and not just one thing. So that's kind of why I wanted to honor her and speak to her. Give her a hand a little bit. All right, so again, thank you all so much for coming tonight, and a portion of the proceeds from this evening are being donated to the YWCA here in San Diego County. And we have Representative Darlene Moreno. Would you please stand? YWCA, when I was back in North Carolina, I was an after-school coordinator for the children 5 to 13 years old. And so every day they would come in after school, we would do homework, help, go outside, play, and do amazing things. And oh my God, my patience was tested so many times. But the beautiful thing I learned about the kids is that, the ones that give you the hardest time, when I was telling them I was ready to move out here, those are the ones that cried the most and were hugging on me the most. You know what I'm saying? So they need you. And out here, the YWCA has a beautiful program called Passages, and it's a 12-month transitional housing program that helps single homeless women transition back into full-time housing. So that's the effort that we're donating to this evening. So again, we just wanted to kind of let you know that we can come together in a conscious space. You know, we can create these things, we can sell our product, but we can also give back to the community with that, because that's what spirit means. Being a spirit, you know, the number one principle in spirituality is oneness. You know, so when we're on the street, you see somebody who is homeless, it's not just, you know, it's somebody separate from you. No, that's your reflection there. You know, and so we can use our means in order to help them and empower them to understand that your community does love you. You know, we're not just looking at you as, you know, somebody shunned. I mean, because they were in somebody's kindergarten class. You know, they were doing coloring books, and then they were sitting next to us, you know, and then through their circumstances, they ended up being there. But however, when we welcome them back into the community and help them understand, like, nah, we accept you, we embrace you, we love you, then we're able to use our gifts and talents in order to empower them to step into their purpose. So again, Ms. Maureen, I want you to come up a little bit for a second. I have a rose for you. Just thank you so much for the work that you do. Again, so yes, that's our nonprofit, and he said we're hitting Los Angeles next week and Pomona the week after that. So we'll be honoring a different nonprofit in every city. So again, thank you so much again for supporting with your time and efforts this evening. Books to read. I know we all have readers in here, and I was like, wow, like this goddess idea, what is that? I want to read more and learn more about it. So two books I really looked into while creating this process and kind of getting into the goddess flow was When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone and Women Who Run with the Wolves by Dr. Crescia Pinkola Estes. The one on the left, and I put it on there for a reason, so our left brains are more analytical side, right? You know, we want to know dates, we want to know facts. And that's what this book talks about. It talks about times in history when colonization created the removing of the goddess image out of a society in order to suppress their knowledge and just, you know, make them subservient into the new sense or the new leadership, you know, whenever people will come and do that. So of course you think about, you know, taking out that goddess image, a woman would not know who she is. And so if a woman doesn't know who she is, then her children won't know. And that's how you suppress an entire generation. However, when you restore that image, their children will know, and then you have a movement of awakened children and awakened youth, the indigos, as we like to call them, that come together and make change in the world. So it's a beautiful. So if you want to know, like, you know, dates, if you're that kind of person, you know, that want to look through history, that's a perfect book to do. Now on the right, our right brains are more of our emotive and poetic and emotional side of ourselves. So this book, The Women Who Runs with the Wolves, it reads like a spoken word poem throughout, you know, and it just really speaks to that part about, you know, we were talking about that Sekhmet energy, that beast in you, that wild, you know, woman inside of you, and understanding that dance and how important it is to get to know that part of yourself, and not be afraid of your darkness, but to walk right into it, you know, and to question the things that society says that you shouldn't be, or that's too much, or that's too risque. It's like, no, that's a part, again, of your power, you know. I was having a debate in the back about strip clubs. You know, it's like if like women in strip clubs were like, you know, like were they bad, or, you know, like was they, you know, demeaned or whatever. And we were talking about body being a temple, and it's like, wow, you know, like seeing a beautiful woman embracing who she is can remind you of yourself and how beautiful you are. You know, again, because we're all reflections of ourselves, and it can tap into something like, wow, I wish I was brave enough to get on a pole and swing around in front of a whole bunch of people. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's about understanding it and not judging that part of yourself. So that's what this book talks about. And for the men, I highly recommend this book as well, because it talks about how to create the space for your wild woman. You know, in order to meet her at that level and to create a conducive environment and community for her to survive and to thrive. So again, that's the second book that I highly recommend. Again, so please connect with us, Artist Shelly Bruce, at Artist Shelly Bruce, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. And myself at AmenRa_SunGod. That's my Instagram handle. And also our website, IlluminatiCTR.com. That's our spiritual consulting website. We just launched today. I'm super excited. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful site. You can learn more about the services that we offer, and also read blogs and see videos that kind of keep you in this space. I love, you know, I'm a writer, I'm a journalist here in San Diego. I write for the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. And so I love to tell people stories, you know, I love to tell stories and connect and just kind of spread knowledge in that way. So we'll have information and things like that on there. So we'll leave that up there. And Remember, I mentioned earlier that I had a piece for you all. That is kind of the response to Shelley's piece, which she read earlier, and her poem was called "Worship Me," and my poem is called "Goddess Worship." So she made the call, and here is the response. My mother once asked me, "Why do you always put women on a pedestal?" I replied, "So we can finally see eye to eye." Ever since I opened up my third and gained a new revelation of my self-worth, the same has occurred to my image of you. Goddesses, you are the stuff of legend. Manifested in perfection, monuments have been erected in your name but can never quite capture the beauty of your foundation. Cults have been formed to honor your footsteps. There's graced the sands of the Sahara thousands of years ago, and countless songs have been composed for you. Inspired by the melody, your eyelashes harmonize in the wind each time you blink. There's enough power in your pinky toe to move mountains. The milk of your bosom has raised nations, and the sparkle of your smile has toppled them in the same breath.
There you go.
Each step you take, graceful yet steadfast, has cast spells over any who have the privilege of witnessing it. And the cocoa leaf of your skin is bathed in divinity. I hope now you see why beasts lusting for power had to try to steal yours away. Blaming you for the fall of mankind from divine favor. Reducing you to an object of sexual desire, claiming that the only source of your power comes from in between your legs. Pitting woman against woman, yelling trick this, trick that, and boxing you in with a corporate glass ceiling that few can break through. Interesting how a man walks on water. He's a god. But a woman walks on water. She's a witch meant to be burnt at the stakes. The stakes have never been higher for you, goddesses. Heaven has once again opened its doors, creating a wonderland for you to rule. Sweet missing link to the Holy Trinity. There cannot be a father and a son without a mother. I pray you begin to see the bigger picture once smothered. This is why I worship you. This is why I honor you. To circumvent the lies told by those hell-bent on burying you. But you cannot be destroyed. Bearing the brunt of rape, vaginal mutilation, and sexual assault to still rise. Some cultures force you to cover your face and body, but the reflection has always been in your eyes. I still see you. It's the sole reason my soul can open up and speak to you in this moment. My gods, they need us. They need our love to recognize and believe in the love inside of themselves as we do theirs. Only then we can experience a true connection that was meant to exist between us. But it all begins with the woman. Open up your mind to a world of limitless possibilities. You'll see the image of a goddess worthy of all this worship. Thank you all so much.
Give it up for Amin Ra. Thank you so much.